What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Tinted Visors podcast. We are here with episode 20, and we have a big episode for you guys. All the trade news that's happened in the past couple of days. We're going to break it all down for you. So what we're going to do, first we're going to get a little bit of news out of the way, a couple signings, a couple young players, and then we're going to go straight into the trades and just focus on that for the entirety of the episode, just because there's so much to talk about and so much to break down. But with that being said, let's get it going.
They will gun you down. Oh, you know she wild inside emoji. Oh, you gotta.
But before we get going into that, we're going to go with card of the day. For me, I'm running out of high-end cards, so we're going to go with just a personal collection card and the Steven Stamkos Day with the Cup. Really cool set. I've got a couple from that team. Got Kucherov, Point, Sorelli, all those guys. Usually it's a lot cooler, but because it is the 2020 Cup win, I don't think they had a Day with the Cup that summer just because of COVID. So they didn't really get any cool picks. I mean, usually you see like Phil Kessel's on the golf green, eating hot dogs out of the cup, something cool like that. So there is a cooler set for the 2021 Cup win that I'm trying to get my hands on. But these ones still pretty cool. They're not worth that much just because it is, it's a picture straight out of the game. Nothing really special there. But, favorite player. He's got his 2 cup rings now. Hopefully he goes for more. We'll see how Tampa does this season, but cool card.
Yeah, the Day with the Cup set, love that set, love the idea. Cool little Easter egg to kind of chase in normally Series 2. Just going with my card of the day, we have a Andrei Svechnikov Future Watch Auto, number 2999. Didn't pack this one. I entered a group break, and you could choose one team. So they were ripping 18-19, and I think someone already took the Canucks, so I just took the Hurricanes because I like Svechnikov. And boom, that was the auto in the box of SPA. Pretty crazy feeling watching that on live. Probably my first bigger, high-end card. Not too sure what to do with it. I've had some offers for it to sell it. I think I'm going to get it graded. Looks pretty mint to me. But yeah, super sweet card and will always hold a special place in my heart.
Yeah, like I said, we are both eager to get into the trade news, but we do have a few other topics we wanted to discuss. Caden, I'll throw it straight to you. Elias Pettersson, 8-year deal with the Vancouver Canucks. What are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, this is a huge win for the Canucks. Initially, Pettersson said he didn't want to talk about extensions until after the season. However, with these rumors surfacing of him maybe going to Carolina and there being a huge offer on the table, I think it pushed him to get in the office and kind of negotiate for a new deal. So yeah, 8 years, $11.6 million will be the AAV, and it's a huge win. I think he took a pay cut. I think most Canucks fans were expecting him to get $12 million or more. So seeing him take 11.6 kind of shows the belief he has in Patrick Allvin and Jim Rutherford and what they've kind of done with this Canucks squad. So this is a big win for the Canucks, and I'm very excited to see Pettersson in a Canucks uniform for the next 8 seasons.
Yeah, it was a pretty crazy rumor coming out with Carolina. I think Natchez and Kotkaniemi were names thrown out there as well. But, like you said, huge win for the Canucks, locking him up. It is well below, market value. We both predicted it could be anywhere north of $12 million. So the fact that it's 11.6, it's a really good look. It means Vancouver's going to stay competitive for the next, 6-8 years, as long as the contract lasts. And the biggest thing for me is it gets that distraction out of the way. That thing was the contract was always lingering over him and the team for the whole season, and the fact that it's out of the way, they can really just focus, put their head down, and focus on the playoffs, focus on a deep run. So yeah, I think it's a great win for both sides. Vancouver fans should be really happy with Pettersson. Next little bit of news, Logan Stankoven. Great sort of emergence so far in his short stint in the NHL. 7 games played, 5 goals, 3 assists for 8 points. Former second-round pick, and he's looking really, really good with the Dallas Stars, playing alongside guys like Wyatt Johnson and Jamie Benn. And for Dallas, they picked up Chris Tanev. We'll touch on that in a little bit. But Logan Stankoven, it's pretty much like a pickup as well. They're basically bringing in this guy into their team, and he's doing really well. And the fact that, he fell to that second-round spot back in 2020 when he was drafted, it shows that, again, size does not matter. These short guys are doing really well, and that shouldn't be a factor when you're drafting. But Logan Stankoven doing really well. He's been scoring everywhere he's been, Canada, Kamloops, and now with Dallas.
He's been an elite goal scorer at every single level, and the NHL changes nothing for him. Off to a blistering hot start, and he's been playing on the third line, like you said, Wyatt Johnson and Jamie Benn. And looking at the landscape of the Dallas Stars as a whole, this is very scary for the league. They're led right now by Jason Robertson, a guy like Rupe Hintz, and Miro Heiskanen, Jake Ottinger, all young guys. You look down the lineup and they're not getting any older. Yes, they have Joe Pavelski, Tyler Seguin, and Jamie Benn, but that's traded off for Wyatt Johnson and now Logan Stankoven. The Dallas Stars are going to be a contender for years to come, and who knows when it's going to stop because they have these young guys coming through the pipeline and producing right away.
Yeah, just moving on to the trades. Trade deadline passed just yesterday, so we're going to break down as many of the big trades that we can. What we're going to do is just sort of go through divisions and just break down each big trade that happened. We will not sort of discuss trades that happened weeks ago, so nothing about, Elias Lindholm, anything like that. It'll just be a main focus on the past couple of days that have happened. And right out of the gate, what looks like could be the trade deadline winner on paper, Colorado Avalanche of the Central Division. They picked up a lot of guys. Sean Walker on defense, one of the highest chased after defensemen of the deadline. Middlestat, kind of a shocking trade. Jakob Trenin and Brandon Duhaime. Caden, what are your thoughts on Colorado's deadline acquisitions?
It's looking tough as a Canucks fan here. Colorado really loaded up, and I do really like the Duhaime pickup. Very underrated bottom six forward. He's going to fit in nicely with the Avalanche. And I am also a fan of the Bowen Byram trade for Middlestat. You do upgrade that second line center, and you also offload Ryan Johansson's trade in the Sean Walker trade. So overall, a lot of wheeling and dealing from the Avs. I really like the Middlestat fit on that second line. They really bolstered their forward depth, and they are primed to make a run.
Yeah, like you said, I really like the Middlestat deal as well. They were trying to go with, a guy like Ross Colton on that second line, but it just wasn't working out. So having a bona fide guy like Middlestat to center that second line is really going to help them down the line. And at that point in Byram's career, it just wasn't really working out. You were kind of just hoping that he would break out eventually, and that's the only value that he kind of held at that point. So the fact that they sold high on him, picked up a guy like Casey Middlestat, hopefully an extension comes along soon, and hopefully it's at a good deal. But I think out of the gate, Colorado is making it real tough in the West Division. But moving on, staying in the same, in the Central here, Winnipeg going out, getting Tyler Toffoli and Colin Miller. They got Monahan a couple weeks ago. Caden, what are your thoughts?
Tyler Toffoli pickup was huge. Kind of out of left field, really, from the news reports. It sounded like Vancouver was in, maybe LA, maybe a reunion with both of those teams. And then Winnipeg kind of just comes in out of nowhere and acquires him. Most valuable asset they gave up was a second, and I think it's a huge win. They're pushing all their chips in the middle, and it makes sense with their core. I really like the move. I do also really like the fit on that second line right wing spot for Toffoli, and picking up a very solid, proven depth defenseman in Colin Miller. Huge win for the Winnipeg Jets. They are also loading up for a run.
Yeah, they kind of have to compete with Colorado's deals at that point. But great pickups. Didn't really lose anything like a first rounder or anything like that. Like you said, second rounder was the highest that they gave up. And on the flip side, New Jersey, kind of a little confusing. They did say that they wanted to get an extension. It worked out with him, but they ended up moving him at the deadline. But then they went out to go pick up Jake Allen. So it is kind of confusing whether they were sellers or really buyers at that deadline. We'll see what happens with New Jersey. We do have that bet going on at the moment. But Winnipeg, not as big moves as Colorado, but still a very big winner on deadline day.
Just moving on to the next contender in the Central Division, the Dallas Stars. And Kenny, they did stay a little quieter at the deadline, didn't decide to load up too much, just with the addition of Chris Tanev. What are your thoughts on adding Tanev and then standing pat after that?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, Stankoven was basically the same as trading for a top forward. So the fact that they got him up really helps that depth. And Chris Tanev, teams were looking like they were going to give up a first for him. So the fact that Dallas only gave up as high as a second, it really looks good on them. And Chris Tanev, he's a very good, strong, defensive-minded defenseman, something that they need because they have, guys like Miro Heiskanen and guys like Esa Lindell who are a little more on the offensive side. So they have some stay-home guys now. I think it'll really help that depth. Just because of the other moves that the division made with Colorado and Winnipeg, it does look like maybe they came out on the shorter end. Maybe they should have made another move. But, I don't see any flaws in this Dallas lineup at the moment, and I think they could be very competitive.
Yeah, you look at this forward core, you look up and down the lineup, and it's one of the best depths in the league. So I don't disagree with not adding a forward at the deadline. However, when there's a guy like Tyler Toffoli or even Brandon Duhaime on the market, I think you have to take a swing. Even Duhaime, just like a later round pick, it's kind of like a why not, right? Adding some depth like that is always good when you're going to be a contender. However, I do love the 10 of adding, and I do still think this Dallas Stars team wins the cup. They were my pick from the preseason. So, overall, not a bad deadline for Dallas. I'm very happy with Chris Tanev.
Last one in the division, Nashville Predators. Kind of interesting. They did sell off some guys like Yakov Trenin for a third, but they did pick up some depth guys like Jason Zucker and Anthony Beauvillier for very late round picks. Just because their cap hits were so high, their values were not, as high as one might have thought. So I think that Nashville, they pick up some depth. They could still stay competitive. They are holding on to that first wild card spot right now. It's tough to stay competitive in that division. So we'll see what happens with them.
Yeah, some pretty just interesting moves from Nashville. Nothing that really, I don't think Zucker really moves the needle. Beauvillier, yeah, he's kind of had an off year, I guess, kind of getting bounced around from Vancouver to Chicago and now Nashville. So I don't think these moves really move the needle at all, but they are in that wild card spot. It's Nashville's in a tough spot. They're in a very mediocre position with guys like Saros, Yossi, and Forsberg not really allowing them to fully tank, but not good enough to really make a run in the playoffs. But we'll see. Picking up a couple of veterans never hurt anybody. So Nashville, they're looking to hang on to that wild card spot. Staying in the West, we're going to the quietest division of the trade deadline, the Pacific Division. We'll save the whale for just a second, but we'll start with the Edmonton Oilers acquiring Adam Henrique. Kenny, what are your thoughts on this deal? They did give up a first, but they also got Carrick on the way back.
Seems a little bit high for a guy like Adam Henrique. I'm not really sure what he was fetching in other trade offers, but he is he's a very strong depth forward at this point, maybe third line, maybe fourth line center. He has some experience in the playoffs. He's got that famous goal against the Rangers in overtime, so he knows how to come up clutch. And Carrick, depth forward as well. Got some grit, got some strength. He'll fight. He'll get some hits in. Other than that, I think they should have gone out and maybe picked up a few more pieces. And I think they are happy with their goaltending duo at the moment. But they couldn't have hurt to get another depth defenseman, or maybe even another forward. Just for me, the first round pick seems a little high.
Yeah, you look at just some other trades that went down, and I feel like Edmonton should have pushed way harder for a guy like Jake Gensel. I think you really just throw as many prospects in there as you need. If you're willing to trade that first rounder, I think you need to do whatever it takes to get that done. You have Connor McDavid on your roster. I don't think there's any point in holding on to any prospects. I think you just got to go in. And when a superstar like Gensel's available, I think you have to take a crack. Those don't come around too often. So for me, I think this deadline is an L for the Oilers, just based on what Vegas did, how Vancouver's looking, and even LA, they're kind of bouncing back. I do expect the Oilers to hopefully get out of the first round, make it through to the second round, but it's going to be tough considering the moves that Vegas did.
Speaking of Vegas, let's get right into it. 3 big deals: Anthony Mantha, Noah Hannafin, and at the very end of the deadline day, Tomas Hertl. Caden, who do you think is the best, most important pickup for them?
Tough to say. I think it's going to have to be Noah Hannafin. Probably the best player on paper. He just adds to an already very stacked decor. Picking him up from Calgary, once again, kind of swooping in out of nowhere. It was only reported that Vegas was in on him about half an hour before the deal happened. So yeah, Vegas does it again. Tomas Hertl is added strictly for the playoffs. He will remain on LTIR until the playoffs. So, circumventing the cap, doing what Vegas does. But yeah, it's interesting. I know the league's pretty upset about what they're doing and how they're going about it. But until the NHL changes something, I think they can keep doing it. I'm not happy with it either. But yeah, the NHL definitely needs to change the rules for this because it's pretty nuts what Vegas is able to do. This is going to be a very stacked and scary team come playoff time.
Yeah, it looks like they may very well run it back. But at the end of the day, you can't hate the player, you gotta hate the game, right? It's the NHL rules that allowing them to do this, and until they change, they have no reason not to circumvent the cap every opportunity that they get. As a Tampa fan, I can't say much on that because they've done similar stuff. But I think more teams should take advantage, because if Vegas is not getting punished for doing something like this, then why not take a crack at that as well? Pick up some LTIR guys strictly for the playoffs, like Tomas Hertl, and make a run for it. But with Vegas, it's interesting. They've given up pretty much the entire future away for another crack at this, and we'll see how. We haven't seen it yet, but we'll see how that sort of impacts them down the line. Whether they end up in mediocrity for in 5 years, for the next 10 years, or whatever. But at least for now, they're staying competitive and they look very, very scary. Moving over to the Metro Division, and it is the division leaders picking up some center depth with both Jack Roslovic and Alex Wenberg. There were some reports about some bigger moves maybe happening with the Rangers, Kako, a first, other things involved. So they didn't pull the trigger on any of that. I think that was the right decision on them. I don't think they should sell for anything less than what they should get. So the fact that they got some depth, I think that helps, like we talked about earlier, to help with filling the Blake Wheeler hole. I don't think the goalie needs any help, and I don't think the defense needs any help. So picking up some forwards, good on the Rangers. They should close out this division on top.
Yeah, Wenberg is a solid pickup, and I'm also a huge fan of the Jack Roslovic pickup. Only giving up a fourth for a player of that caliber, it's a steal. Can play the wing as well. I really like that fit in the middle six. Really bolsters that depth that they've kind of been missing, kind of the weaker point of this team, with the loss of Blake Wheeler, like we mentioned again. So we'll see if they can make it out of the first round this year and get back to the conference finals where they were just a couple seasons ago.
Going over to second place in the division and rivaling potentially the Colorado Avalanche in the biggest trade deadline winners, we have Carolina taking up Jake Gensel. Didn't lose any firsts or any of their top prospects. They did give up a few other picks and maybe some B plus level prospects, but they did get a guy like Jake Gensel. He knows how to score on the power play, 5-on-5. Everyone says he's a Crosby merchant, but he does play very well when Crosby isn't in the lineup. So I think he will flourish in Carolina. They've got some very skilled guys over there. And just to add on top of that, they've got Evgeny Kuznetsov, 50% retained for the next 2 years. And it would only costed them, I think it was a third or a fourth, for Washington to unload that contract. And I mean, it could look to be a very, very good pickup. Obviously, he has had some issues in the past, so hopefully that is all behind him. But Carolina loaded up, didn't need any help on defense. That was very clear. Maybe could have picked up a goalie, but we'll see how Anderson does coming back from injury. But my Stanley Cup pick, they're looking really good, looking to make a run. Caden, what do you think?
Love the Jake Gensel pickup. I didn't want the Canucks to pick him up, so I'm glad that Carolina also kind of came out of nowhere and stole Gensel away from all the other candidates. Elite goal scoring winger. He knows how to score in the playoffs and has a proven track record. Love it for the Canes, who are looking to finally get over the hump. And going over to Kuznetsov, also really love this pickup. Is a bit questionable. I'll talk about that in a second. But offensive upside, is a proven Stanley Cup winner like Gensel. Really love what they're doing and what they're shaping up this locker room to look like. Carolina's loaded up for a very deep run. But on the flip side of this Kuznetsov acquisition, he signed through to next year, Kenny. So you have 2 seasons of him. You have this remaining and then the one after. And you look at who the Carolina Hurricanes are due to pay this offseason. The most notable one is Marty Necas. So for a team that is already kind of going to be cap strapped this offseason, it is a little questionable to see them pick up a contract for next year. We'll see how they navigate it in the offseason, but the goal right now is to win the Stanley Cup.
We'll see what happens. They could very well likely trade him in the offseason. At that point, he would have 1 year left and would be considered like a rental. So we'll see what happens there. But I mean, props to him. Obviously, like I said, he had some issues in the past, but he was very content going down to the AHL. A lot of pictures of him smiling. A lot of cases, those players refuse to go, and that ends up with contract disputes and maybe contract termination. But he kept his spirits high. He was happy to go down. No one really saw the trade coming. At least I didn't. I mean, if you were to pick him up, I don't see why you wouldn't just pick him up on waivers. But I mean, they did get the 50% retention, which is pretty big. But good on him. Hopefully a fresh start. Hopefully, some success in Carolina. Last one from the division, we will talk about the New Jersey Devils. We did touch upon the Allen pickup and was a little confusing considering they did sell Toffoli. And then they did flip goalie for goalie, picking up Kakkonen. Caden, what do you think about New Jersey's deals on trade deadline day?
Not notable at all. Other than the Toffoli selling was questionable, but we have no idea where they were at with contract talks. Who knows what Toffoli was saying? Maybe he was like, I don't want to resign here, trade me. So maybe that's what New Jersey had to do. Toffoli might have forced their hand. Yeah, the goalie moves, like I said, they don't move the needle at all. Jake Allen is not the answer in net, but Vanacek wasn't either, so I guess it doesn't hurt to change it up. You do have a young goalie like Nico Dawes, so maybe at this point, depending on how, the next 2-3 weeks go, you throw in the towel if you're not, pushing for a wild card spot and you kind of let the kids play. Let Nico Dawes just get some experience and hopefully develop into your future starting goalie.
And notably, the Philadelphia Flyers not really making much noise this trade deadline day. They did pick up Eric Johnson, which might help out with the defensive depth, but they held on to guys like Scott Lawton, someone who was rumored to be on his way out. So maybe they are, trying to stay strong and trying to finish off the season in that third seed. But interestingly, no real big moves from the Philadelphia Flyers.
Yeah, no huge pickups from them, being in a playoff spot as well. They did sell Sean Walker over to the Avs and also picked up the contract of Ryan Johansson. So it is a little bit confusing from them, but yeah, like you said, standing pat for the most part. It'll be interesting to see down the stretch if they can hang on to this playoff spot.
Going over to our last division, the Atlantic Division. We'll start with Boston. Missing out on Elias Lindholm. There was sort of, rumblings about a three-way trade, trying to get him from Vancouver, with Gensel going to Vancouver. A little confusing, but nothing really big happening with Boston. They picked up some defensive depth with Peak coming in and some forward depth with Pat Maroon, which kind of interesting considering his beef with Jack Edwards. So we'll see how that plays out. But, Boston, they need to make a run. A lot of their guys are getting older, like Brad Marchand. Held on to Allmark. Interesting deadline day for Boston, in my opinion.
Yeah, a lot of what ifs for the Bruins and a lot of rumors that didn't really materialize. The Peak pickup, I like it. I don't like it for the third round pick. I think it's a bit of an overpay, but you do have control for the next 3 years at, I believe, less than $3 million, the AAV. And Derek Forbert reported out for this season, so the move does make a little more sense in hindsight. But yeah, I'm going to say it again. These moves don't really move the needle at all for the Bruins. They're in the playoffs. We'll see if they can maybe make a run. I don't see them going any further than the second round. But yeah, you can never doubt Boston, and we'll see what they can do.
Yeah, I would love to see maybe them move a guy like Fabian Lysell for a rental, maybe like Vetrano. I don't really know what was going on with Frank Vetrano and why he was held on to by the Anaheim Ducks. But I would have liked to see a little more depth come Boston's way. And, I think they did try to move Allmark. He did nix the deal. I think it was going to go to LA, so they might have gotten some pieces for that. But as soon as that deal fell through, they should have looked elsewhere. Because I think, with moves that other teams are making, especially in the division, I think Boston needed to make a little more noise. And even if they do come out on top of the East, teams in the West like Colorado, who are going to meet them in the finals, would just, bowl them out of the park with the deals that they made. But we'll go to the division leaders. We'll go with Florida. Picked up Vladimir Tarasenko for a very, very good price. And a depth guy like Kyle Okposo, good leader, been around the league for a long time. I like the moves Florida made.
Yeah, me too. Picking up Tarasenko for that price is pretty crazy. He's not the Tarasenko that we all know and love. However, it's still Vladimir Tarasenko. So big move. Not too sure why the Sens sold him off for so cheap, but the Florida Panthers are not complaining. They will take that scoring punch down the lineup. And yeah, Kyle Okposo really provides a veteran presence in that dressing room. Captain of the Buffalo Sabres, you kind of add that into a dressing room, adds to that winning mentality that the Panthers have, and they're flying high heading into April.
Yeah, I think, filling out that forward depth really helps them. I don't think the defense needs any help. They did sign Forsling to a massive contract extension. Not too familiar with his game, but I heard that it is, he's very underrated, so it is a very worth it contract. And I think, they're happy with the goaltending duo that they have right now. They do have Knight in the AHL at the moment, but, they're riding Bobrovsky and could go very deep again.
Continuing into the Atlantic Division, we have your team, Kenny, the Tampa Bay Lightning, picking up Anthony Duclair and Matt Dumba. I won't say much about it. I'm going to throw it to you, your favorite team. What are your thoughts on the moves?
Honestly, I did not see either of them coming. I expected Breezeball to make, a relatively big splash this deadline day. because just, the trend that they're going, they need some help on both sides of the depth, both defense and forwards. So I'm happy with the deals that they got. Dumba, I think, they were asking for, a lot higher picks than what, Tampa ended up giving up for him. So I think the fact that they got him at full contract is what made the value so low. And then Duclair, I think he's really gonna help out. He's been on the other side of the Florida battle, playing for the Panthers last season. So now he's suiting up for the better team. It kind of sucks to see a guy like Jack Thompson go. He was their highest defensive prospect last couple seasons, and a third is kind of tough to see go as well. But both these guys should help out the lineup. They're on a downward trend right now, so hopefully they can turn that around. Obviously, no moves with the goalie, but I just hope Vasilevsky can turn his game around as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. I love both moves. It's tough to see, a guy like Thompson and that third go, but picking up Duclair, hopefully working on an extension with him. But yeah, another really solid scoring winger. You pick up two guys who have been around the league, add that into a already winning culture in Tampa. I really like where they're headed. I hope they can hang on to this wild card spot, and they're one of my more favorite picks for a upset in the first round.
Last one in the division, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Nothing big on actual deadline day, but they did pick up Ilya Lyubushkin a couple weeks ago, as well as Joel Edmondson. A couple depth defenseman guys. Didn't really give up too much for those players. And we also picked up Connor Dewar from Minnesota, another depth for low price as well. I think, it fills the defense a little bit. I think that's where the biggest holes for them lied. Forward, don't think they need too much help. I think Bertuzzi and Domi are, playing a little better, playing a little more up to their contracts. And then the goaltending, I think they're going to just try to figure it out within. Joseph Wall is back, so hopefully he can regain the form that he was in before his injury. But they've got, a lot of options in net at the moment, so I think, they didn't really need to make any deals there. But a lot of fans were not really happy with the lack of moves from Treleving. Caden, it looks like you're nodding. I think I'll let you touch on that.
Yeah, I think we both heard the noise a bit, both of us being in school out here in Ontario. A lot of jokes about, Treleving sleeping in Friday morning, didn't realize it was deadline day. But yeah, pretty tame deadline for the Leafs. Like you said, I don't think they need to add too much. I think Leaf fans are really going to like Connor Duar's game. I think he adds a lot to that bottom six. But yeah, it's hard to make moves when you're so cap-strapped like the Toronto Maple Leafs. And, we've touched on it so many times, but when you're paying all these top guys this much money, it's going to be hard to find depth guys, even at anything more than $2 million, $3 million. So yeah, Leaf fans, it's kind of hard to be upset with Treleving with the situation he's in. He's extremely cap-strapped. We'll see if they can get out of the first round again, and if there's any season to do it other than last season, I believe it's this year. But yeah, pretty tame deadline for the Leafs. We'll see if it comes back to bite them in the butt in the playoffs, with all these teams around them making so many moves.
Yeah, that's all the teams we wanted to touch on. Caden, clear winner, clear loser. Let me hear it.
The clear winner, you talked about Colorado. You also touched on the Carolina Hurricanes, but for me, hate to say it, the biggest winner has to be the Vegas Golden Knights. Just come playoff time, if they can make it there, come playoff time, they look disgusting. And looking at that lineup, if I was a Canucks fan, if I have to see that lineup in the second round, I might throw up a bit in my mouth because that's going to be really scary to see. So yeah, for me, the clear winner is the Vegas Golden Knights. Clear loser for me, kind of tough to say. Just for simplicity, I'm going to say the LA Kings. Didn't make any moves. They miss out on Olmark. Must almost had him. Would have solved their goaltending problems. And just looking at the Pacific Division, looking at the Golden Knights and how the Canucks are playing, it's going to be hard for them to hang on to that, 3 seed or a wild card. Like best case scenario, they're playing the Vegas Golden Knights, and that's when Tomas Hertl comes off the LTIR. So it's going to be tough for the Kings, and it's going to be tough for them to get out of the first round. So for me, they are the losers of this deadline.
Yeah, I agree with you with both picks. But for debate's sake, I will go with other teams. The winner, Colorado Avalanche. You got Middlestat on such a good contract deal. He is due for an extension, but, that's not a problem for them in the playoffs right now. And Sean Walker, as a Tampa fan, kind of dreamed of getting him. Didn't really think it was going to work out. So he is, probably one of the best defensemen that was on the board. And then you round out your depth with Duhaime and Trennan. without really giving up much that really sort of mattered to them. I know Byram might suck for, to lose for most fans, but I think, they're going to be happier with Middlestat, a little more proven, a little more consistent of a player. So I think Colorado is going to make a big run. If both of those teams make it to the conference finals, Colorado, Vegas, it will be one hell of a series. For losers, just out of the Metro, like I said, I don't really know what the Devils were trying to do there. I think they sold pretty low on Toffoli, as well as, swapping their goalies. And Jake Allen, I don't think he's the solution to their problem. Neither is Kakkonen. And another team out of that division, Philly, just being quiet. I know they are in their rebuild, so they're kind of overshooting right now anyways, so didn't really need to give up any picks or prospects. But if you're in that playoff hunt this far into the season, you kind of have to owe it to the players to give them a little boost going into the last run. So we'll see what those teams, any of those teams do following the trade deadline. Yeah, guys, that wraps up our trade deadline special. Let us know what you guys think. Let us know if you're happy with your team's deadline moves or whether you're disappointed. Let us know what you think in the comments. Make sure to follow our other socials, TikTok, Instagram, all that. Next week, we'll start up some new segments for you guys. Kind of get some more weekly stuff in.
Yeah, guys, thanks for tuning in to the trade deadline special. We'll see how these moves pan out in the next couple weeks. But yeah, like Kenny said, we'll have some new segments coming at you in the coming weeks. So until next episode, guys, we'll see you later.
They will gun you down. Oh, she wild inside emoji. Oh, you got a frown. Tomato to my haters. Hope you get